The strip of skin on Chelsea Ackerman's ring finger hadn't been so blindingly white before. Of course, the first time she'd been engaged, it had been winter. The second time had been during the previous 2 months when the Texas sun had been at its pinnacle. This past summer's heat alone could have bronzed her skin while she worked indoors, all except what the diamond had protected. She stared at that line, taking her attention from the 2-lane highway leading her home. Home to a ranch she didn't want. Home to an empty homestead now that her parents were moving into town. Home after her brother and his fiancée had left for College Station so he could finish his veterinarian degree. A blaring horn caused her to jerk the steering wheel to the right. Since she had drifted across the middle line, she didn't hit the gravelly shoulder on her side of the road. She skidded to a stop anyway, her pulse bobbing in the back of her throat. The truck that roared past belonged to Three Rivers, but Chelsea didn't recognize the man who drove it. No surprise there. She hadn't been home since last Christmas, and she certainly didn't keep up with the personnel on her family's cattle ranch. She glared at the taillights retreating in her rearview mirror, switching her laser gaze back to the traitorous tan line on her left ring finger. Strong emotion welled where her lungs were, making it impossible to breathe. Sucking at the air, she fumbled for the door handle, getting a blast of October heat when she spilled from her luxury SUV. She bent over and braced her elbows on her knees, still trying to get enough air, still trying to forget about the circumstances that had led her to this stretch of road in the Texas Panhandle. As her lungs remembered how to work, she vowed she'd never wear another engagement ring. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. There would not be a third time. Chelsea collected herself, grateful for once for the low population of Three Rivers. She gathered her designer sunglasses from where they'd fallen on the asphalt and returned to the driver's seat. The air-conditioned seats drove away the heat, and when she sealed herself back in the SUV, the air had re-oxygenated itself. Gripping the steering wheel, she prepared to keep on toward her destination, much as she didn't want to. A sign several yards down the road caught her attention. She inched the car forward until she could read the faded letters. 3 Rivers Ranch, 5. 5 more miles until she met the worst turn her life had taken in the past 28 years. Beneath the old sign hung a much newer one that hadn't been there 10 months ago. Courage Reins Therapeutic Riding. No mileage included. Chelsea puzzled through what that sign could mean. Was this therapeutic riding program at the ranch? Surely not. Someone would have mentioned as much to her. After all, she was the one taking over the management of the homestead until Squire graduated. The thought of planting and weeding her mother's massive vegetable garden made Chelsea feel 20 pounds heavier. She pressed on the accelerator and centered the car in the appropriate lane. She'd find out about this Courage Reins in another 5 miles. At the turnoff to Three Rivers, she squinted through the dusky sky to see another sign, new, with the same words, Courage Reins. Annoyance sang through her. If the ranch had a new program, she should know about it. She dismissed the thought. She wasn't in charge of the entire ranch. Her father had made that clear. She was to maintain the homestead, the house, and the yard. Tom Lovell was the general controller, and he oversaw the cowhands. Her father had hired a new foreman to replace the one who had been stealing money from the ranch for the past 5 years. Chelsea sifted through her memories to remember his name. Garth Ahlstrom. He'd been foreman for a cattle ranch in Montana before making the move south. She pulled into the driveway leading to the garage, a wash of homesickness hitting her like a cold bucket of water. Which made no sense. She was home. This time for a lot longer than it took to bake a ham and open presents. She parked the car, but her fingers wouldn't release their grip on the wheel. Come on, Chels, she coaxed herself. Just go in. It's going to be fine. Fine wasn't quite the word she'd been using on the 6-hour drive from Dallas. Fine wasn't the word her boss had used when she'd told him she was quitting to babysit a piece of land and a house. Fine wasn't the word that came to Chelsea's mind when she got the call from the hospital informing her of her fiancé's accident.